So we chose our topic of college readiness because it's an ongoing topic that a lot of people are talking about. Several attempts are being made to solve the issue, like Common Core, although it's not working. Colleges are also facing many issues in regards to college readiness because whether anyone else realizes it or not, it does cost the college a lot of money to provide these remedial courses for those who aren't ready. And a lot of parents are worried about their children not being successful when they attend college because, I mean, if they're not ready, then they're more likely to drop out or just spend way more time than they need to be. College readiness is the ability for a student to attend college and pass through the required courses without needing to have any refreshers from high school. So our introduction starts with the history of higher education. It began in the mid-1800s, where the United States decided that they needed to focus more on students going to college. According to Obama, the overall goal for this country is to have every high school student attend at least 1 year of higher education. High schools are encouraging their students to pursue a higher education by having them attend college fairs, arranging campus visits, and internship programs. But declining scores in the math and reading field are showing that high schools are not fully preparing these students to be successful in a college setting.
And then before you go to college, obviously you take the SAT, ACT, everyone's taken them. They're usually, 4 to 5 hours, give or take. The history of the SAT, ACT is that the SAT originally started as a college entrance exam in 1900, and then later they were like, we gotta get more serious. So they created the Scholastic Aptitude Test, or SAT, in 1926. And then the demand for college education created the ACT, or the American College Testing Program. And then when you get to college, then they give you more tests, and they say, okay, well, now you need to take this test to see what courses you need to take, and they set a certain grade, and then, they set a certain standard, and if you don't make this certain standard, then you could put into remedial courses. And then other options for instead of going to college, which high schools don't really emphasize, is like you can go to vocational school, which is it's like on-the-job training basically, and it gives you like hands-on experience of the actual job, and which is really good. And also the military, even though a lot of people nowadays don't really go to the military, that's also another option because college, isn't really for everybody. Consequences of the unprepared student is they waste their money on remedial courses in college, and the pressure of college can make the student crumble and drop out, and usually in like the first semester is when students usually drop out. And high schools should properly prepare their students. I know personally for me, like I didn't see my guidance counselor every day. Like my guidance counselor wasn't on me constantly. I went to a bigger school, so it wasn't really a priority for him. I kind of just saw him once a year, if that. And I believe they should push the students towards other options if they aren't ready.
So the sources that we use came from a huge variety of places. We use a couple newspaper sources, and we use 2 from the Gale Virtual Reference Library. Source 5 and 7 came from there. Another source that we used was a paper written by Jessica Howell. She's an assistant professor at a university in California, and her paper goes in depth in the topic that her students have not been ready to go to college, and explores the ideas of like why they aren't ready and what the high schools haven't done for them. Many of the sources actually talk about what parents can do to help their children be ready, and how high schools can change their education policies to provide a better education for their students. And source 7 talks about how standardized tests really do nothing for students, and they don't test their ability in the classroom. They test how well they can memorize something, and I mean, who wants to be tested on that?
Okay, so our findings, it said only about a third of the students are prepared for college, which is extremely significant. And then there were 2 nationwide assessments recently. They gave one in 2013 to 740 schools, and then did it again in 2015 and compared the results. And they found out that only 37% of students are prepared for college level math and reading, and they found that it decreased in proficiency, not really a significant amount, but enough that they were, concerned, like, why are we going down instead of going up? And then when broken down by race, for math, 32% of Caucasian students were ready, or were proficient or above, and 47% of Asian students were proficient or above, and only 7% of African American and 12% of Hispanic students were proficient or above for math and reading, or for just math. And then reading, 46% of Caucasian students and 49% of Asian students were proficient or above, and then 17% of African American and 25% of Hispanics were ready for reading. And then what's really a concern is that there's an increased gap between the highest and lowest performing students. So the higher students are getting better, but the lower students are getting worse. So that gap is very significant. And then, so remedial courses are becoming more common. 75% of post-secondary institutions have them, in math and English for the most part. These courses are extremely costly to both the college and the student. According to results from California, the annual cost of remediation in 1991 was $9 million, but then in 2001 it was $30 million. So that's like a very significant amount of money to spend on remedial courses. And then estimated in the 2004 to 2005 year, college and universities spent $435 to $543 million on remedial instruction. So again, that's a lot of money. And then the student also spends significant amount of money on remedial courses because of the fact that if you start in remedial courses freshman year, then it takes usually like a little bit longer to complete college. Instead of 4 years, they could be in 5 to 6 years. And that is, they usually spend $708 to $886 million on remedial education nationwide. So again, other options should be given because that's a lot of money that students are spending on basically a high school education in college. So they should have other options that they should be given. So there's factors of college readiness that could impact students positively and negatively. Sports, they usually teach the student how to better manage their time, with practice and stuff. You have to manage your time because I'm sure we've all been up late, midnight doing homework because we've had sports during the day. Parental involvement can either be positive or negative because if you have limited amount of parental involvement, then you don't have somebody constantly on your back, bugging you, like, did you do your homework, or stuff like that. And more parental involvement can encourage the student to do better and work harder and stuff like that. So, and then not attending college is definitely a fear for many high school students. They worry about, am I gonna get a job in the future? I going to get a high-paying job, low-paying job? So usually, due to that, they fear like they have to go to college, even if they aren't ready.
That's it.
And that's it.